The grand execution chamber of the Galactic Council thrummed with a charged, almost electric anticipation. I, Ragnar, High Executor of the Seventh Quadrant, had presided over countless judgments and terminations, yet today carried an energy unlike any before it. Honored members of the Council, I declared, my primary voice sac resonating with tightly coiled excitement, we convene for a display without precedent, a testament to the limitless reach of our authority. The hall itself was a marvel of intimidation, a cathedral of power carved from condensed neutron star matter. It stretched across 3 artificial gravity wells, its scale dwarfing even the most colossal beings gathered within. Delegates from over 200 species filled the tiers. The mist-walkers of Nebula 7 hovered near the vaulted ceiling, their shifting vaporous bodies swirling in ribbons of violet and green. The Petra Collective sat lower, their crystalline frames refracting light in brilliant, almost blinding cascades. Even the elusive quantum swimmers had sent a representative, their presence flickering between dimensions, glimpsed only in fractured flashes. I extended my third appendage toward the containment platform. Bring forth the specimen. At my command, the force barriers hummed to life. A perfect cube of shimmering energy formed at the chamber's center, pulsing with restrained power. Inside, suspended in gravitic restraints, hung a single figure, a human woman. Alexandra Mason, I proclaimed, letting each syllable fall like a verdict, former captain of the Earth vessel Star Wanderer, seized during their ill-conceived attempt to open diplomatic channels with our empire. Look at it, sneered Grand Sovereign Yggdrasil, his iridescent scales shifting from a deep oceanic blue to a simmering crimson. So pitifully fragile, locked into one shape, binary genders, linear time, utterly primitive. A wave of reactions rippled through the chamber. Delegates chittered, buzzed, and pulsed their amusement. Sensory tendrils extended for a closer look, scanning beams swept across the human's form, and quantum analyzers flickered as data poured in. This creature, I continued, my secondary voice sac adding a sharp undertone of disdain, dared to argue her kind deserves equal standing within the galactic community. Worse, they claim humans possess something beyond our reach: adaptability, resilience, audacity. Chief Scientist Miraval slithered forward, tentacles flicking gracefully over her data console. Truly fascinating, she murmured. Their neural architecture shows remarkable plasticity. And their emotional output? Intriguing, very. Enough, barked Security Commander Dorn, his gravitational amplifiers pounding the floor and sending tremors up through the chamber tiers. Let's dispense with the academic musings. Time to show this upstart species the price of hubris. I raised all 4 of my primary limbs. Silence fell instantly. The only sound was the steady hum of life support systems and the low thrum of the containment field. Alexandra Mason, I intoned, each word precise, deliberate. You stand charged with crimes against the natural order. Your species destabilizes the balance we have forged across the stars. Your sentence will be a warning to Earth, and to every fledgling civilization that dares imagine equality. The human's eyes, those crude optical instruments of her species, locked on mine. Her mouth curved upward, baring teeth in what humans called a smile. An oddly defiant gesture for one standing on the precipice of annihilation. You really do love hearing yourself talk, don't you, Ragnar? She said, her voice carrying a thread of amusement, laced with unmistakable contempt. A shock wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. No condemned being had ever spoken to me like that. Not here, not now. Begin the extraction sequence, I ordered, my voice sacs vibrating with sudden fury. We'll see how long that insolence lasts once we begin siphoning her pain for the Council's viewing pleasure. Panels slid open along the chamber walls, and sleek probes extended, crackling with restrained energy. The containment cube flared as new layers of power sealed the human in. But Alexandra Mason didn't flinch. That smile, infuriating in its calmness, remained. Just remember, she said, louder this time, so every species present could hear, you chose this. Whatever comes after, that's on you. Several of the more sensitive species shifted uneasily, their instruments detecting sudden temporal ripples, faint distortions in the quantum substrate. Yet the rest of us dismissed such anomalies, too consumed by the spectacle of our impending triumph to bother. How arrogant we were! How catastrophically, blindly arrogant! The extraction probes moved with mechanical precision. Miraval's tentacles darted across her controls, adjusting frequencies and stimulation thresholds with the ease of someone who had orchestrated countless such procedures. For the official record, I announced, voice modulating to its most formal tone, this marks the 723rd species to challenge the Galactic Council. And like the others, they will be reminded of their place. On the surrounding quantum displays, Alexandra Mason's vital readings danced in real time. Her heart rate was steady, too steady. By now, most species buckled, their bodies betraying terror and pain. Remarkable, Miraval whispered, adjusting parameters. Her pain tolerance is exceeding predictions. Increase neural stimulation by 30%. The containment cube pulsed, probes boring deeper into nerve pathways. The human's body tensed, yet she didn't scream. She didn't even grimace. Instead, she laughed. You still don't understand, Alexandra said, voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Humans have been perfecting the art of hurting each other for millennia. Pain. Her smile widened. Pain is just another language to us. Grand Sovereign Yggdrasil's scales flared with irritation. Silence the specimen, he hissed. This is meant to showcase our dominance, not offer a stage for their primitive philosophies. Dorn shifted on his amplifiers, unease creeping into his movements. Something feels off. Most species are begging by now. I dismissed his concern with a flick of my third appendage. Human arrogance, I scoffed. They imagine themselves special. But they'll end the same way as all the rest. The representative of the quantum swimmers rippled violently, its form pulsing in sharp waves of alarm. Unusual temporal disruptions detected around the specimen, it signaled. Recommend immediate cessation of the procedure. Nonsense, I replied, my voice sax vibrating with finality. Increase the output. Maximum levels. Show our gathered council why no creature has ever endured the extraction process. Alexandra Mason's laughter deepened, louder now, carrying a strange, almost melodic resonance that threaded through the chamber like a haunting song. A thin trail of blood ran from her nose, her eyes beginning to glow with a light that no sensor could identify, something uncharted and unsettling. You want to hear something funny? She gasped between fits of laughter, her breath hitching. On Earth, we have this saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Her smile twisted wider, unnerving in its calmness. But no one ever asked, what if what kills you makes you stronger? The temperature in the chamber plummeted by several degrees. The mist walkers above compressed themselves into tight, trembling clusters, their normally fluid bodies stiffening in anxiety. Vital signs nearing critical, Miraval reported, her tentacles now darting frantically over her control arrays. But these readings are impossible. Her cellular structure is mutating. At the quantum level. Maintain full power, I ordered, though beneath the command, a thread of unease coiled inside me. The procedure continues until confirmation of termination. The Petra Collective began to hum in dissonant, fractured harmonics, a clear signal of their collective distress. Chronological distortions spreading throughout the chamber, they warned. The human's temporal signature is destabilizing. Alexandra's body arched violently against the gravitic restraints, her skin erupting with a luminous sheen that almost seemed alive. You know what your greatest mistake was? She said, her voice rising over the hum of energy. You thought, because you've conquered hundreds of species, you understood all species. All life. Her chest heaved, and the light from her skin intensified, casting eerie shadows across the delegates. But humans? We don't just adapt, we evolve. Capillaries burst beneath her skin, forming intricate, branching patterns that glowed faintly, as if her very veins were being rewritten by light itself. The containment field shrieked as its energy readings shot past measurable thresholds. "Shut it down!" bellowed Security Commander Dorn, stamping his gravitational amplifiers with urgent force. "Something's gone wrong, shut it down." But his order came too late. Alexandra Mason's vitals flatlined, sudden, sharp, and final. Her body slumped in the restraints, that maddening smile still etched across her lifeless face. The chamber sank into silence. The quantum swimmer's representative began phasing in and out of dimensions, its agitation vibrating through realities we could barely comprehend. "Death confirmed," Miraval said softly, her tentacles falling still, lifelessly limp. Exactly 37 minutes into the procedure. She hesitated, the faintest tremor in her voice. "Recommend immediate disposal of the remains before." "Before what?" I snapped, my voice sacs tightening with sudden, sharp apprehension. She never answered. Every instrument in the chamber went dark at once. The screens, the scanners, the readouts. The only light came from the emergency beacons, casting the hall in a blood-red glow. Inside the containment cube, Alexandra's body began to emit a faint radiance. A wave of relief surged through the gathered dignitaries as her vitals remained flatlined. The Petra Collective resumed their crystalline harmonics. The mist walkers slowly unfolded from their defensive curls. "Record the official time of termination," I announced, my voice swelling once more with performative pride. "Let it echo across the stars. Alexandra Mason of Earth expired after 37 minutes of justified correction." Another victory for order. A surge of celebratory pheromones flooded the air as the Council expressed satisfaction, each species releasing its own version of triumph. The quantum swimmer's representative flickered back into partial phase, but kept its distance from the glowing cube, its unease palpable even across dimensions. "Prepare the disposal protocols," I instructed Miraval. "We will atomize the remains and disperse the particles across 7 systems. Our tradition will be upheld." The chief scientist's tentacles moved sluggishly, as if weighed down by an unseen burden. "High Executor, these post-mortem readings are," she faltered, "unprecedented. The cellular structure is still in flux, quantum fluctuations persisting despite complete biological death." "Impossible," Grand Sovereign Yggdrasil declared, his scales rippling with celebratory gold. "Dead is dead. Even humans must obey the laws of existence." Security Commander Dorn's voice cut through the chamber, sharp with tension. "Gravitational sensors are destabilizing. Something is interfering with the artificial wells. The containment field is shifting." "Technical noise," I dismissed with a flourish of all 4 limbs. "Meaningless. Begin the disposal sequence. I want this chamber cleansed before our victory feast." The disposal probes emerged, sleek and gleaming, their molecular disassemblers buzzing like a swarm of hungry insects. They approached Alexandra Mason's inert form. The chamber temperature plummeted again. "Warning!" The quantum swimmer's representative vibrated violently, almost shrieking in alien panic. "Severe temporal distortions detected. The human's corpse is generating paradox waves." Miraval's tentacles writhed in confusion. "These readings, they're impossible. Her cells are..." Her voice faltered. "Rewriting themselves. At the quantum level." The disposal probes screamed as their systems failed, sparks spitting from their frames before they shattered midair, fragments raining across the containment field. "What sorcery is this?" Grand Sovereign Yggdrasil's scales snapped to warning red. "No dead specimen has ever resisted disposal." The containment field's matrix began to spasm, waves of unstable energy surging outward. Alexandra's body, limp only moments before, rose slowly from the restraints, levitating, her skin erupting with a light so intense it burned the eyes to look at her. Evacuation protocols! Dorn roared, slamming his emergency beacon. All dignitaries, retreat immediately. But the massive chamber doors sealed with a bone-deep clang, locking us inside. The mist walkers, in blind panic, surged toward the ventilation shafts, only to rebound against invisible, inexplicable energy barriers. We were trapped. This is nothing more than a malfunction, I insisted, though my voice sacs trembled despite my attempt to sound certain. The human is dead, confirmed dead. What we're seeing is merely residual energy bleeding off her cells. But the Petra Collective began resonating at a pitch so sharp it verged on terror. The human's quantum signature is expanding exponentially, they warned, their harmonics jagged with fear. It's as if the very concept of death is being rewritten. Alexandra's body jerked violently within the restraint. Her skin fractured like delicate porcelain, splitting open in jagged lines as golden light poured from the cracks. The chamber's quantum displays erupted, showering the tiers with sparks. Readings are impossible, Mirabelle hissed, her tentacles coiling in frantic panic. Her cells are rebuilding themselves using elements we don't even recognize on the periodic table. The artificial gravity wells buckled. Council members from across the galaxy floated helplessly as the chamber's stabilizers failed, environmental systems sputtering and shrieking. Alarms wailed, but the sound warped, twisting into something awful, something that sounded disturbingly like human laughter. Still think humans are primitive? Alexandra's voice echoed through the chamber, but her lips hadn't moved. Her body levitated, suspended by forces that defied every instrument we possessed. I watched, paralyzed, as her chest convulsed with a sudden, massive breath. Her eyes snapped open, blazing with molten gold. The restraints liquefied, turning to molten metal that peeled away and swirled around her, orbiting like planetary rings. The human was alive. The human was dead. The human was something between, something beyond, something that shattered every law of science we held sacred. And she was smiling. That same insufferable, infuriating smile. The moment Alexandra Mason drew her first breath again, every rule of physics inside the chamber simply stopped applying. 37 minutes, she announced, her voice vibrating at frequencies that should not exist for human vocal cords. You gave me 37 minutes to learn death from the inside out. How very generous. The molten restraints spiraled tighter, forming intricate, impossible shapes that shimmered painfully to the eye. Her skin rippled with golden light, her hair floating freely as if submerged in invisible waters. Lethal force authorized. Security Commander Dorn roared, slamming his amplifiers. Hidden panels snapped open. Energy cannons emerged, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. Alexandra laughed. The sound reverberated not just in the chamber but in dimensions we couldn't even perceive. You know what's fascinating? She mused, as the weapons charged and fired. The beams never touched her. They froze midair, streams of annihilation becoming lazy, swirling ribbons of light. She plucked them from the void like strands of silk, weaving them into her hair, almost absent-mindedly, as if adorning herself with garlands. Death isn't an end, she said. It's a door. And you just taught me how to pick its lock. The mist walkers, panicking, dissolved themselves into vapor in a desperate bid for escape. Alexandra flicked her hand lazily. They solidified instantly, frozen mid-flight, transmuted into perfect crystalline statues, their faces locked in eternal horror. Impossible! Mirabelle shrieked, her tentacles nodding as she fought to make sense of the readout. Her body is radiating the energy signature of a collapsing neutron star, but it's contained within a human frame. Alexandra looked down at her glowing hands with feigned surprise. Is that what this is? Because to me, it feels more like everything. All at once. Forever. Grand Sovereign Yggdrasil's scales flickered wildly, colors bleeding into hues we'd never witnessed before. In the name of the Galactic Council, he bellowed, his voice cracking, I command you to cease this violation of natural law. Alexandra turned her blazing gaze upon him. Instantly, his iridescent scales transformed into solid, precious metals, weighing him down so heavily he crashed to the chamber floor with a thunderous impact. "Natural law," she said, drifting toward him like some celestial specter, leaving a trail of stardust in her wake. "You speak of natural law, yet you never wondered why humans, out of all the species you've subjugated, created countless religions, countless visions of the afterlife. We've been training for this moment since the first of us looked at the stars and dared to ask, what happens when we die? The quantum swimmers attempted to phase entirely out of our dimension." Alexandra snapped her fingers. They were yanked back, screaming, their multidimensional forms forcibly compressed into grotesque, impossible shape. "The best part?" she continued lightly, as chaos erupted around her. "I'm not even the first human to figure this out." Her smile sharpened. "Ever heard of Jesus? Lazarus? Our myths are full of people who've taken round trips through death's door. You just assumed they were stories." I watched in horror as she began to split, one Alexandra becoming two, then three, then more, multiplying, each copy shimmering with golden light, each moving through solid matter like it was mist. Every one of them wore that same terrible smile. "Stop this at once!" I roared, my voice sacs swelling to the point of rupture. "The Galactic Council offers terms of surrender." Every single Alexandra turned in unison, dozens of golden gazes locking onto me. "Surrender?" she asked, their voices overlapping perfectly. "Oh no. You don't get to surrender." She floated closer, and her many selves spoke as one. "You get to watch. You get to learn. You get to understand why humans are different." The shattered quantum screens flickered, then reformed, now showing images not of her, but of Earth. Scenes of war, disaster, plagues, moments when humanity faced its own extinction. "See," said every Alexandra in perfect harmony, "that's what you never understood about us. Humans don't just survive adversity. We don't just adapt to it. We absorb it. We become it. Every catastrophe makes us stronger. Every apocalypse teaches us something new. And death." She raised her hands. Reality itself rippled like water. "Death is just the biggest challenge of all." The chamber's neutron star of forged walls flickered, then turned transparent, peeling away their opacity to reveal the dark sweep of space beyond, and the vast defense fleet gathered there in a trembling halo of steel and light. "Watch closely," Alexandra commanded, her countless duplicates fusing back into one radiant figure. Now she burned like a newborn star, her very presence too bright, too vast to contain. "I'm about to remind you why humans have so many tales about gods, angels, and demons." Her smile widened, and her voice dripped with something halfway between amusement and awe. "Here's the spoiler: we weren't just inventing those myths. We were remembering what we could become." Her form began to shift once again, simultaneously growing monumental and impossibly small, existing in several dimensions at once. From her back, wings of sheer energy unfurled, vast enough to brush the edges of light years, yet somehow folding themselves neatly into the confines of the chamber. "The Council keeps archives of every civilization you've erased," she said, her words now vibrating directly through the vacuum beyond. "I can feel them all. Every name. Every race you decided was unworthy. Would you like to see what happens when I give them all a second chance?" Outside, the fleet trembled, and then simply unraveled. Warships dissolved into spiraling clouds of possibility, metal becoming mist, matter unmoored. Alexandra reached out with hands now made of light itself, fingertips trailing along the fabric of reality like a child dragging patterns through beach sand. "Thank you," she said softly, her smile radiant enough to shame suns, "for the gift of death. Now, let me show you what humans do with gifts." Her golden eyes flared. "Ever watched a supernova in reverse?" she asked. Before anyone could respond, she showed us. Stars reassembled themselves from scattered atoms. Fragments of cosmic fire coalesced, threads of light winding into a perfect, burning sphere. She performed this feat not out of necessity, but because she could. Because she wanted to make a point about resurrection. Because she found it fun. You know what's really ironic? Her voice rippled outward, sliding through the quantum foam of space itself, even as she casually dismantled everything we had built. I was the diplomatic officer on my ship. I was the one meant to prevent conflicts. The grand archives of the Galactic Council, the crown jewel of our accumulated history, millions of years of knowledge, cracked like an egg. From within poured a storm of golden butterflies, each one carrying memories of species we had subjugated, fluttering across the void to return them to the civilizations we had wiped away. But I guess this is diplomacy, Alexandra mused, rearranging an entire solar system with a flick of her wrist, planets swinging into a graceful new order as if choreographed. I'm just resolving every future conflict at once, by showing you why picking a fight with humans is such a catastrophically bad idea. Security Commander Dorn tried to activate the Council's emergency evacuation systems. Alexandra twitched a single finger. The escape pods melted into iridescent soap bubbles, floating serenely into the void, carrying their screaming passengers on a slow, endless drift through the stars. Did you know, she said, manifesting simultaneously in every seat of the council chamber, her golden glow searing the edges of our minds, that humans have this beautiful little concept called karma? Every version of her smiled. It's the idea that everything you do eventually comes back to you. The Petra Collective tried to disappear, merging with a nearby asteroid belt in blind panic. Alexandra snapped her glowing fingers. The asteroids turned into glittering wind chimes, the Petra crystallines fused into their clappers. The wind, cosmic radiation, solar flares, played an ancient human melody through them, echoing across the void like an elegy. For example, her many voices spoke as one. Remember how you delighted in my suffering? How you harvested my pain for amusement? She tilted her head. Now you'll feel every ounce of suffering you ever caused. And don't worry, I'll keep bringing you back. Just like you kept doing to me. Grand Sovereign Yggdrasil, desperation finally cutting through his pride, attempted to send a warning to the surviving fleet. Alexandra's gaze flicked to him. His scales shimmered, and transformed into hundreds of tiny screens, each one playing a different scene. The death of a species, the obliteration of a world, every atrocity we had ever committed. Oh, and about warnings, Alexandra said lightly, pirouetting through open space, dragging newborn stars behind her like ribbons. You mocked human emotions for being primitive. She paused. They're not primitive. They're perfect. Her voice sharpened, every syllable like a blade. Rage sharpens focus. Vengeance gives direction. And spite. She smiled, a terrible, glorious thing. Spite is the most exquisite fuel. The quantum swimmers made one last attempt to save themselves. They began unraveling time itself, trying to erase the last hour from existence. Alexandra reached out, plucked the paradox like a floating bubble, and blew on it gently. It folded into a temporal loop. The swimmers shrieked as they were forced to experience their own extinction methods on repeat, forever. But my favorite human emotion, Alexandra whispered, while casually juggling black holes in her hands like playthings, is satisfaction. She sighed contentedly. The simple, perfect joy of a job well done. Then she began to sing. The song, "Oh Stars," the song, wasn't just sound. It was creation itself. The melody rebuilt solar systems destroyed centuries ago. The harmony revived extinct species. The rhythm reorganized galaxies according to a design only she could see. Here's a little game, Alexandra said cheerfully, creating a throne for herself from pure condensed starlight and sinking into it like a queen on coronation day. Every time you try to escape, I'll show you another part of humanity you never cared to understand. Her eyes sparkled. Let's start with our creativity. Miraval, hands shaking, attempted to send a desperate warning burst to neighboring galaxies. Alexandra intercepted the signal midstream, spun it in her hands, and turned it into a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. She baked them using the heat of collapsing stars. "Anyone want some?" she asked brightly, holding out the plate, steam rising. "No," she shrugged, nibbling one anyway. "More for me. Not that I need to eat any more. I just like the smell." The last remnants of our defense fleet, unwilling to face her, triggered their self-destruct. Alexandra snapped her fingers. The detonations blossomed into fireworks, their plasma trails spelling words across the void. "Humanity says hello. Wish you were here." "You know what's really funny?" she asked, absent-mindedly shaping a new kind of matter that radiated pure emotion. "I'm actually being nice. Some humans would have ended you outright." She leaned forward on her throne of light, her golden smile widening. "But where's the lesson in that? Our ultimate safeguard, the emergency quantum beacon, a device that would have annihilated our entire species in one sacrificial act to stop her, shattered into dust before it could activate. The dust swirled, coalesced, and formed miniature sculptures of human art through the ages. Consider this a lesson," Alexandra declared, her voice resonating through reality as she conducted an impossible orchestra made of solar winds and gravity waves. The very cosmos seemed to hum in tune with her. Lesson 1. Humans are absurdly good at turning trauma into strength. Lesson 2. We have excellent memories. I made one last, faltering attempt to reclaim control. By the authority of the Galactic Council. "Oh, that reminds me," she interrupted, snapping fingers that had become beams of living light. "The Galactic Council," she announced with casual cheer, "is now officially reorganized into a traveling theater troupe." Her golden smile widened as the chamber shook with sudden transformation. "Your debut performance? Human historical dramas, to be staged for every species you ever subjugated. I expect standing ovations, and full audience participation." The council chamber, once the most feared seat of power in the galaxy, shifted around us. Walls became painted backdrop. Restraint devices reformed into glowing spotlight. Weapons melted into musical instruments. Our prison cells morphed into dressing rooms stuffed with costumes spanning human history. "Don't worry about memorizing your lines," Alexandra added, now manifesting as an enormous constellation shaped like a winking face. "I've written your roles into your DNA." Her laugh rippled through creation. "Break a leg," she said. "That's theater slang. One of millions of human expressions you'll have plenty of time to master." 10,000 years later. I know exactly how long it's been, because Alexandra keeps an enormous countdown clock suspended at the heart of the galaxy, ticking off every second since her resurrection. She says it's for entertainment value. I think it's to remind us. Places, everyone. Her voice booms across stars, every syllable carrying the authority of creation itself. Tonight's performance, Hamlet. In 5 minutes, she adds brightly. Ragnar, remember, you're playing Polonius. Please try not to overact this time. The former Grand Sovereign Yggdrasil, now reduced, or elevated, to the Council's costume designer, fusses over my ceremonial robe. His once iridescent scales remain permanently metallic, reflecting the glow of stage lights built from the bones of what used to be our primary military command hub. "You know the worst part?" I whisper to him as we prepare for our 10,000th performance. She was right, I admit, my voice low. About humans. About everything. We should have just accepted their friendship when they offered it. Alexandra appears beside us, still blazing with that impossible golden brilliance. These days she often manifests as pure energy, wearing a stage manager's headset, clipboard in hand, a clipboard forged from condensed starlight. "Oh, spoiler alert," she says with a wink that ignites a handful of nearby stars. "That's next week's play. The greatest diplomatic failure in galactic history, a musical comedy in 3 acts." The audience streams in, representatives of every species we once crushed beneath our boot. Now they thrive. Now they laugh. They love these performances, especially the comedies. There's something irresistible, apparently, about watching your former conquerors trip over their own appendages while attempting slapstick. But here's the part that unsettles me most. Somewhere along the way, the terror faded. And in its place, we began to enjoy ourselves. Centuries of dread dissolved into something unexpected, a genuine appreciation for human stories, human art, human absurdity. Her punishment had become a gift, one we never deserved. Think fast, Alexandra calls suddenly, tossing me a script that simply materializes from nothing. The pages are made of crystallized time. Next month, she says, we're staging something special. Every species in the galaxy is contributing a tale about their first contact with humanity. We're calling it The Day the Universe Learned to Laugh. The script shifts in my hands, revealing flashes of alternate timelines. Realities where we embraced human friendship, realities where we fought harder, darker battles. The outcomes change. But one thing never does. Humanity never stays down. Humanity never surrenders. Humanity never stops becoming more. You want to hear the funniest thing? Alexandra asks suddenly, her voice dipping into a rare hush as she adjusts the fabric of existence around our stage. Death taught me something during those 37 minutes. Her golden eyes flick toward me, and for a moment the universe holds its breath. Everything is connected, she says softly. Every act of cruelty you inflicted? You were only hurting yourselves. With a wave of her hand, the theater's walls dissolve into transparency, revealing the galaxy beyond, a galaxy reborn. Where once our empire's rigid grip suffocated all life, now countless civilizations flourish in beautiful, chaotic harmony. Art, music, and stories pour between the stars like rivers of light. That's why I chose this, she says, her form shifting seamlessly through human figures. Joan of Arc, Shakespeare, Gandhi, nameless faces that built history. Not for revenge. For redemption. Every play you perform, every story you tell, heals the wounds we inflicted on each other. The lights dim, newborn stars softening their glow. I take my place on stage, Polonius in hand, and realize something that once would have been unthinkable. I am grateful. Grateful that we failed to destroy humanity. Grateful that Alexandra Mason, terrifying, brilliant, relentless Alexandra, showed us a better way. Even if her method was unimaginably creative. Oh, and Ragnar, Alexandra's voice whispers into my mind, warm as sunlight and sharp as lightning. Remember when you asked if I'd ever forgive you? I freeze, the memory flooding back. That hesitant question I'd whispered nearly 9,000 years ago. Today's the day, she says cheerfully. Congratulations. You've officially learned your lesson. You're free, she announces, her voice rolling across the chamber like thunder and music all at once. Free to go back to ruling the galaxy, if that's what you want. The curtain rises. The audience waits. Every member of the council, my council, looks around in stunned silence. Then, as one, we speak. The show must go on. Alexandra's laughter, soft, dazzling, infinite, cascades through every dimension as she steps into the lighting booth, headset glittering. The play begins, and the galaxy sings. And that, Alexandra says with a radiant, knowing smile, is the most human thing you've ever said. Her words settle over us like starlight, warm and undeniable. And so we perform, not out of obligation, not out of fear, but out of choice. Because somewhere in those 10,000 years of endless cosmic theater, through tragedies and comedies, through soliloquies and songs, we finally learned the truth Alexandra had always known. Life isn't meant to be an empire built on fear. Life is better as a story shared between friends. Even if some of those friends had to die first, to teach us how to tell it.